had a technical difficulty, but I think we got it worked out. Hopefully, you guys are still sticking through it with us, and we're back online. No more choppiness.
We're back.
We're back. I think we only missed one hand. Maybe two. Danny Rowland in the Facebook chat. This is on a 15-minute delay, so this game is live. This game is going on right now here at Best Bet Jacksonville, but we're streaming on a 15-minute delay.
Oh, yeah. You made it. I mean, you had a good start.
Looks like John bumping it up
All
here
right,
with the 2 8s.
It's all over, you know?
Yeah, it looks like this is going to be another button straddle. Nick with king-queen calls from the small blind. John raises pocket eights to 250. George from the straddle going to call with mystery hand. And then Nick with the king-queen going to make the call.
Kind of a big sizing from John, huh?
Well, just a 5X. This is it was straddled to 50, and he's out of position. He's one of the blinds, so you want to make it a little bigger sizing to thin the field. Again, you don't want to be playing these 4, 5, 6-way pots. You want your pots to be heads up, three-handed. Give yourself a chance to win, even if you don't have the best hand. When you're in a 5, 6-way pot, it's usually that the best hand dealt wins the actual pot. You know, when you're in a heads up or a 3-way pot, that's not always the case. You know, there's a lot more maneuverability.
I also think John knows that George defends his button straddles extremely wide, so he's trying to tax him a little bit, go a little bit bigger.
And Nick limp. Like when Nick limps, he's not one to limp fold.
Yeah,
Both
good point.
George and Nick, both acting very active players that don't like to fold. So John was pretty sure that one was at least going 3 ways to the flop.
Nick, a pretty regular tournament player here at Best Bet Jacksonville. You guys probably have some history together, huh, Eddie?
Yeah, I see Nick. Nick travels and plays some tournaments as well. Yeah, all over the place. I know he likes to play cash these days, but I mean I think he got started. It was nothing but tournaments for the longest time. Now he mixes in both. He's always dangerous at the table. He has the ability to run up really big stacks, and unfortunately has the potential to run those stacks back down. But you know that's how a lot of players are. A lot of aggressive, dangerous players.
His MO is just to run his stack up as high as he can and hope the tournament ends before he loses it. I like it.
Yeah, he's a good. I'd say he's a good one-day tournament player for sure.
He's got some results. He's taken down a few here.
Oh yeah, he bags the chip lead a lot. He plays well. He plays well. He's another one that is always looking to learn and study, always looking to get better. Spends a lot of time in poker rooms.
Whenever I see the updates of Nick with the chip lead, I'm always astounded by how many chips he actually has. It'll be like Nick, bags chip lead for flight number 3 with 600,000 chips. Everyone else has 120K. It's always pretty insane.
Yeah, that's what he's capable of. He's not afraid to play really big pots at any time in tournaments and in cash. He's not afraid to put his chips in there. If he thinks he's good, if he thinks a bluff will work, or he's confident with his instincts and trusts them. A lot of times they pay off for him. Frank flopping open-ended here. George going to bet 300 and get called in both spots. Three of clubs on the turn. George fires an orange chip, pumpkin, 1K. Toby going to let it go, and Frank going to let his open-ended go.
George putting it on him. Stuck George. My favorite George to watch in the stream.
George trying to climb out of the hole. Lost Lost an all-in pot to Nick early with 2 pair versus set. Lost about 4,000 or 5,000. It's going to be looking to build these pots up to get it back. Pocket 2s for Dave's going to limp in for 25. Now you see Dave limping the pocket 2s here. Pocket 2s is the type of hand where you're okay if it goes 4 or 5 multi-way. That's the type of hand where you're either going to flop a set or just be done. And if you flop a set, you want other people in there to flop other big hands. You want someone to flop 2 pair, a lot of top pairs. So you don't mind limping in, inviting other limpers behind, or getting in as cheap as possible by limping, and then if somebody raises, you can just flat call and avoid opening and getting 3-bet and having to put in too much with these type of hands that you're likely going to be check folding flops to. So the cheaper you can get in, the better.
Is that a little pre-flop pot control? Is that what's going on there?
Yeah, well, this is the type of hand that you want people in there with. You know, some hands most hands you want to thin the field. Most of your raising ranges, you want to thin the field and get it, you know, heads up or 3-way. But you know, this type of hand, it's different. You want people in there. You want all the random ace X's, offsuits, and king, you know, whatever to be in there. So when you flop your deuce and they flop their top pair, you can extract max value. Flop comes ace 7 deuce, and you get against ace 7, where if pre-flop had you raised, maybe ace 7 offsuit would have just folded. But since you limped for 25, maybe they just limp right behind, you know, from the button or small blind or whatever.
Right. While we're in the middle of a dealer change real quick, let's see if I can pull up these stats real quick for these players, see what's going on in this game tonight. Those are the chip counts, and over to the cumulative winnings. Looks like Nick, after getting that big double up from George early on, up over 5,400. George bringing up the back, stuck 66 and some change.
George got some work to do.
Zach up one small blind. Or no, down one small blind.
Zach's played exactly 0 hands that we've seen. I don't recall.
No way. 1 in 1 million, right? Impossible. Put an ace out there.
King Jack for Dave under the gun. It's going to raise it to 125. Toby, pocket 4, is going to make the call. And we're going to go heads up to a flop. Ace 6-4. The table.
Oh, that's for the rake. They're playing for the rake. That's what's going on. Andy in the 4 seed.
Right.
Andy in the 4 seed just got charged for the rake. So for you guys that are unfamiliar with this game, these guys like to gamble for the rake in a time rake game, and the first card on the left on the flop pays the rake for the whole down. So for the whole table. It looks like it was Andy that time. Andy got taxed.
Andy running terrible because he actually had the best odds to not lose that, being as how Toby had pocket 4s.
Right.
two 4s are in Toby's hand, and still a 4 comes out. Bad runnings for Andy. Bad runnings for Toby that he was able to make no more money on the hand. Dave just check folds as King Jack.
I told you 1 in 1 million, dude.
The old gamble for the rake game. Andy got the short end of the stick.
Everyone else at the table loving that. Free poker. George going to open the Queen 10 offsuit under the gun here to 125. Wendy ace deuce off on the button. Going to defend that button and go heads up to the flop with George.
Four never comes though. Not much. So next dealers, four doesn't even come.
8-5-3. Check, check. 9 on the turn. That gives George a gut shot to the nut straight and 2 overcards. Wendy still has a gut shot to the wheel and ace high. 150
Ace high
called.
good.
Wow, George's going to fire the river with queen high here, 400.
Wendy's thinking about making a call.
She is. She don't want to get rid of this ace high. She know versus George, this hand has some value. Is it enough to make this call? Nope. Lays it
Almost.
down.
Wendy's one of my
George
favorite
said, "I
players
think
in the
you
room.
think George calls out exactly what was happening. He says, "I have queen high. I think you were thinking about calling with ace high." And Wendy says, "Yep, I had ace high."
She's one of my
Good bluff
favorite
there
players in
from
the room.
George. Oh, Wendy's great. She's great. She's one of the best people. She's fun to be around. Always in a good mood. Never cares about losing. Always in a great mood, whether she's got heaps in front of her or she's rebuying. No matter what, she's always fun to be around. And she's another one of those dangerous players at the table. When she gets hot, it gets scary sometimes.
Yeah, Wendy can run up some big stacks also. She took one down here on our Best Bet live stream about a year ago. Took one down for almost 60K, I think.
That's right, she did. She's definitely won one of the main events here, one of the 580s or 550s. Looks like Andy straddled the button. George opened ace 9 and Andy folded.
D. Cosenza in the chat. She hits him. Oh, no, that's not good.
She hits me, yeah.
That's
No,
not
I've seen
good.
her hit him. So, yeah, it doesn't look like it feels good. He looks like he bruises easy, too. So you got to be careful, Dan.
Frail.
You know, yeah. You don't want to mess with Wendy. I wouldn't want to mess with her either. Look at her, the assassin over there.
Right. Looks like this hand's going to fold around to Dave in the small blind. Coming in with the King 10 suited. Nick in the third blind. Oh, I'm sorry. Andy limped the cutoff with ace 5 off. I see it.
Yeah, Andy limps, and Dave was raising with King 10 clubs, looking to get it heads up with Andy. But George right behind in the big blind with Jack Deuce suited says, no, sir.
Nick put in the big 3-bet there with King Queen suited. They're going heads up.
Rather small size 3-bet, just a 400. Dave folds, and George makes the call. Dave would have flopped the nut flush draw. Bricks out. George has Jack high. Nick has the queen. That one's going to go check, check all the way down.
Nick puts in the 3-bet pre, takes it down, spikes a queen on the turn, and it's good. Button moves. Looks like Dave on the button this hand. I don't see a straddle out there. Maybe a no straddle this hand.
Well, maybe just some of them are straddling. We've seen some hands at 25 and some hands at 50. I think it's just player dependent at this point.
Sometimes these big games, they just go full auto straddle. Everybody straddles for 50, but maybe not this time.
Yeah, at some point, you know, like you can assume it's going to get that way, whether on stream or off. Oh, a couple of big hands here. Wendy raises pocket 9s to 100. Maybe not. Thought we had pocket queens out there. Guess we don't.
No, what happened is they dealt him in because it's a time game, so they dealt Andy his cards. Dealt him in. He
that's
would have
right,
had pocket
Andy.
queens. Oh, what a flop top set or middle set. Ugh.
Wow. Wow, against Frank with King Jack too. And look at all the 9s that are gone. Frank's open-ended is more like a gut shot. As we see 3 9s that were already out of the deck. Doesn't matter. Pocket queens would have loved to have been in that hand. Shows up about 60 seconds too late.
Oh, man. He's not going to be happy when he watches that one later. So for those of you guys that don't know, when you're playing a time rate game like this, if you're not at the table, you still get dealt your cards just like in a tournament until you miss your big blind. And then you don't get dealt in anymore. But since you paid the time rake, you paid for those cards. You get dealt in every hand, whether you're there or not.
Looks like button straddle here, and Nick is going to limp ace king. George is on the straddle. Andy with pocket queens back to back.
Whoa.
He's going to limp too. This is we could see something. Wow, George not falling for it. Snap checking the straddle with 10-7. King 7-4. Nick limps the ace king and flops top pair, top kicker right on the flop. Leads out 100. Andy calls.
I expected George to call with middle pair there in position.
Yeah, I think when he sees Andy's call, he knows that it's very unlikely for his 7 to be good. Andy has better 7s and kings in his range. George, there's a method to his madness. He's not just out there giving away money. You know, he's not just calling, gambling, looking to spike 2 pair. He's methodical. You just don't. It doesn't look that way because he's so fast. His brain works very quickly.
Apparently, Andy has pocket queens in his range there, too.
Yeah, I think that may even surprise George, but maybe at this point, nothing surprises him.
I don't think so. I think George has probably seen it all by now.
Yeah, I think you're right.
There he is. Coming out for 150 with the Jack Trey suited in the cutoff after a couple limpers. Like we talked about earlier, George is never going to let that dead money just sit there.
Yeah, Nick ace-8 offsuit on the button, not allowing George to take that position from him. Going to make the call.
Gives Andy a pretty good price to come in with the ace-deuce of spades, and we're 3 ways to the flop. Both
Ace
players
10-5.
out-flopping George.
1 diamond. Okay, turn card. Spicy. Andy turns a gut shot with his top pair. Nick has the best hand with his 8 kicker. And George, with just a gut shot, fires out 300. Both players call. And Andy makes the straight. He's going to check it. Going to get checked all the way. Nick's going to check that, and Andy's going to take this one down.
Andy makes a wheel, takes it down. Both players out-flopping George, the pre-flop raiser.
Yeah, good no bluff on the river there by George. He could have just as easily represented that deuce. But
and
we know Andy not folding for any amount.
I don't think anybody would be surprised to see George wake up with a deuce there after raising.
Absolutely. We know pretty much any 2 are in George's opening range, and everyone at the table knows that. Every hand, really. That's why he does it. You know, he does it so he can be completely unpredictable.
This has been a really great game so far. I love these big, deep stack cash games. No max buy-in.
Oh, yeah, these 3 blind, 2, 5, 10, 25. It's just, it all is conducive to big action. No max on the buy, 3 blinds. It's just a bigger game.
Make it juicy.
Bigger pots, which is what we want. Everyone with an ace here, 9-6-5 flop. John fires out from the small blind. Wendy's going to call with her ace queen high, but does turn hearts. And John turns a pair.
Pretty fun turn card.
Let's see if Wendy takes this opportunity to try to take it down. She does. Now, Wendy in the third blind, John knows that she can have any eights as well. When she bets 375, John's going to call with a 7. King of spades misses. Can Wendy fire another one? If she had an 8, what would she bet? That's what she wants to be thinking. No, she checks, and John's going to win this one with a 7. We'll never know if John was going to look her up on the river or not.
John might have been trying to set it up to turn his hand into a bluff there when that spade comes in.
Potentially, it would have been nice to find out.
I think if Wendy has spades, she probably bets the flop. Since she didn't, she bet the hearts. John might have been trying to turn his hand into a bluff.
Yeah, that's definitely a card where he could have. It's unlikely that she has spades, but if she does have an 8, she might not even fold. Like that's the thing. So
that's true.
Yeah, you got to be worried about that. Shout out to Slimer out there watching in TV land. Thanks to all our Facebook and Twitch chatters. King 6-3 misses everyone. Oh no, it's Toby with a king. Jack on the turn. Big card for John. Toby checks the king again. No, he doesn't. 500. John's going to flat call with the big nut flush and gut shot Broadway draw.
Nut flush, nut straight draw.
Pretty dry 3 of hearts on the river. Toby thinking, can he get any more money out of a jack? Probably not. Decides to play it safe and check call. John doesn't take the bait, checks right behind. Not likely Toby's going to be folding a king in that spot, especially with that river card. Good check by John. Good check by Toby, really.
NRG Poker in the chat asking for the wins and losses. Yeah, I get those up for you real quick. We'll take a quick look. They're still about the same. George a little more stuck. But other than that, about the same. There you go. GT Jack saying he would have liked to seen a raise on the turn by John. Yeah, I like that play. He's got a lot of equity. He's got nut straight, nut flush draw there.
Yeah, the only thing is he's not representing. He wouldn't have checked back any flop strong hands. So once he doesn't have any of the flop strong hands in his range, Toby can correctly deduce that a lot of his hand range is in fact turn draws. I think John knows that and decided to play it slow, because there's no way in a six-way on a six-way flop on the button you're going to check back any strong hands, on the flop.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
He did that. He did that in this case. So it's gonna be really hard to rep all the flop sets, all the flop 2 pair. So when you can take those hands out of his range, well, now how did the jack help him? So he either has to have a set of jacks or these big straight / flush draws, which was the case.
This time, Andy getting there with the nut flush draw. Can't get any more value out of Wendy. Shows and takes it down.
Yeah, now if John would have c-bet that flop, that's a great turn card. He's going to have to continue on. In which case, actually, you probably would have seen John win the hand had he c-bet the flop. Just Toby called, jack of clubs on the turn. John with another big bet on the turn would probably get king with a deuce kicker to fold. Especially with John betting into 5 other people on the flop, Toby would have to think John has a pretty big hand. George going to open the 10-9 offsuit, 125. John's going to call, king, jack of hearts. Wendy's going to call on the button, ace-6 off. And Frank with 2 9s going to make the call from the big blind. NRG says a lot of cards help John hands. I would c-bet the flop. Yeah, usually yes. If you were 3-handed, I'd say absolutely. That's a good flop to c-bet. But when you're 6, 7-handed, no c-bets are ever getting through. So when your c-bet's never getting through, and you just have ace high, and you're just hoping to turn equity, I think it's a good spot to go ahead and check it back. Wendy going to get there on the river. Terrible card for John. John's going to fire 650. Not even sure what he's trying to get Wendy to fold. Maybe if she has king, queen.
Whoa.
Wow, Wendy puts 2K, maybe a little more, and John quickly folds.
Snap fold. John's not falling for that, Wendy.
Yeah, John didn't have the hand to call with. Really doesn't have any hand to call with. Only hands that chop with her or beat her 6-7 or any 6. Even if John does have an ace, he's going to lay it down. John's going to open the ace-10 offsuit. And Zach is going to enter a pot. Queen-jack suited. Makes the call from the hijack. Zach is in there. He's waited his turn. Picked it. This is the time. George has queen-jack as well. Looks like we're going to have everyone in here. 7 ways. Lots of middling Broadway-type hands out there. Ace, queen, 5. 2 spades. John flops the ace. Andy flops the flush draw. John continuation bets 450.
Zach folds. Zach's no longer in a hand.
Yeah. Zach spent $100, saw a flop middle pair, decided to put no more money in.
No thanks.
Andy with 10-8 of spades flush draw is going to make the call from the button. Binks it right on the turn. Now this is the same scenario we were in last time. John has the ace of spades. Last time he had the king with top pair and Andy had the flush. Now he has the ace with top pair and Andy has the flush again. Checked over to Andy, who bets 1,000. John can't go anywhere. Bets 1,000 into 1,600. John's going to have to make the call. And the 4 of spades, John's going to get there. Now he's just hoping that Andy has something like King 10 of spades.
What a run out.
3,600 in the pot. Terrible card for Andy. $3,600 in the middle. John bets 2,800. Big bet. Andy counting out some chips quickly. Now he's going to rethink it. He's got the 5K chip in his hand. John, pretty polarized here. He's either representing the ace of spades or a complete brick. There's not anything really in between. You wouldn't do this with the king of spades. Wouldn't do it with the jack of spades. Wow, Andy makes the call, and John's going to get paid. 2,800 on the river. Over 9,000 in that pot.
That's the biggest pot of the night.
Yeah. Well, that one between Nick and George was pretty close.
Oh, you're right. Yeah,
They're
that was
both
like the
around-
third hand.
They're both around. Yeah, they're both around 9 or 10,000 now.
You're right. I forgot about that one.
Yeah, good river sizing for John. Made his bet look like a bluff. Gets paid off. Andy, after turning the flush, gets rivered. Can't find the fold. Loses a big one. Guns on Twitch says, terrible call. He can't pay that.
Well, he did.
He did. That's tough when you're in game, you know. John can show some bluffs from time to time.
Toby waking up with
on
pocket
the
kings.
Gonna open up to 100. Wendy, ace 3 of hearts. Gonna make the call. Andy, he wants to play a hand. He wants to win one. Wow, just a terrible board for kings. Toby does have the king high flush draw. The only
Wow.
doesn't get there. Wendy with 8 straight and all the 3s.
A lot going on this board.
Toby gonna bet 225. He's actually betting this hand for value, hoping someone that might have like 7s or 8s, some kind of 5. But nope, it's gonna see the bad news. Wendy checked that straight on the turn. Makes her an extra 225 on the river.
I know one thing's for sure. I want Andy to call that river whether John had or not. I was like, I want somebody to be stuck as much as I am. I was doing like, I don't give a shit which one of them it is, but I hope they join.
Not one of you, the only one that was on film.
George making a joke out of being stuck 5K off the rip.
I was like, I want
Always
to
in good
call.
Yes,
spirits
he was
about it.
just-
We like that.
He was just hoping somebody would be in the hole as much as him. Whether it's John or Andy, somebody was going to be down a lot that hand.
I guess I'll take that.
It's lonely down there when you dig your hole that deep.
I'm with you too. I was hoping he called the 17. I've been there before, George. No, it's no fun being stuck by
Dave,
yourself.
Dave's going to open the ace-jack offsuit to 125 from the button.
Someone else is stuck just as much as you. You're like, okay, well, one of us is probably going to be even.
Nick's going to call with 7-8 suited, and Toby's going to 3-bet ace-5 of club or ace-5 offsuit from the third blind. gonna get Dave to fold his ace jack. There's your ace removal situation you were talking about earlier, Jack. Because Toby has the ace in his hand, it's less likely that the opening raiser has an ace. And if he doesn't have an ace, it's unlikely that he's going to defend against a 3-bet. So go ahead and good time to put it out there. This time we saw that the opener can even fold a better ace.
Oh, when you saw about that restaurant by you? Yeah, it looks scary.
No, it's not by me. It's like 10, 15 minutes away from me. But it's
Looks like we got a button straddle here. John opens ace king, third blind to 200.
I literally walk in there and I was like, I wonder if this guy lives in my room.
Frank's going to be folding the 4 deuce.
Hey, great reviews.
How was it?
Pretty good.
Normally those places are scary, but no, it's mostly Filipino and Chinese.
Wow, Dave taking this time to 3-bet the queen 3 of spades to 850. Bad timing. Folds the ace jack last hand. 3 bets queen. What? No, never mind. George 3-bet the pocket 9s from the straddle. John makes the call. Ace 10-8 on the flop. Check, check. Interesting turn card as George has an open ender and John has a gut shot with his top pair. Now he rivers trips. Unlikely George is going to lose any more money on this hand. If somehow John could check it to him, George is probably just going to check back. May as well bet to try to get a little value out of your opponent. Could have kings or queens. 1800. George is going to fold quickly. And John wins a decent little pot.
We're going to take a quick break right after this hand, guys, and we'll be right back in just 1 minute.